Namo Namaha Bhaktam Sarvesham Hartam Swagatam. Welcome back to this channel Sanskrit Sopanam. I hope you are doing great. I am also good. And continuing with the series Learning Sanskrit through Gita, today we will decode the 15th shloka from the second chapter of Bhagavad Gita. And again, as we are seeing that all these verses is like a single dialogue spoken by Krishna, broken down into different verses. So of course, this shloka also is like a continuation from the previous shloka. So we have to keep that shloka in mind also while we are decoding it to get the proper implied meaning out of it. But anyways, all the Sanskrit part, grammar and vocabulary, we will just see. So without wasting any more time, let's start decoding the shloka for today. So this is the shloka that we have today. Let me go through the shloka once. Yam hi na vyatyantyete purusham purusha rishabha tamadukha sukham dhiram somrittatvaya kalpate. So this is a shloka and this here is the Sandhi Vichhed version of the shloka, all the words broken down. You can see there is a yana sandhi that is happening here. So this ti-ete changing into ti-ete due to yana sandhi. And again you have just another sandhi, this ukara sandhi. So saha amritatvaya, that is changing into this somritatvaya. So both these sandhis again are mentioned in the PDF file along with the entire word by word breakdown. So do download that PDF file from the link in the description box. We will just continue with the decoding shloka. Okay, so we are starting our process with this dhatu roop, with this kriyapad vyathayanti. And vyathayanti, this means torment. This means torment, and since this is a plural, this is a bahuvachan form. So it is they torment, that they or these things, they torment in that sense. And an interesting thing to note here is this dhatu roop. This is coming from this dhatu vyatha, but this dhatu, this means to be tormented. That this means to be tormented, or that means to feel agitated, to feel angry, okay, to feel hurt in all that sense, right? But here in the context of the shloka, we have the meaning that they torment. That means they cause torment, okay, they cause agitation, they cause confusion. So this action is being caused on someone else. So we can clearly see that this dhatu here is being modified with this suffix. This suffix we have seen before, right? Nich suffix. Because when we use this suffix, when we use this pratyay, then the whatever verb root, whatever action is that, so that action is caused on someone else. So pat, to study, but if I modify the pat dhatu with this nich pratyay, then it becomes to cause to study, to make someone study in that sense. So first of all, this dhatu, this verb root vyat, is being modified using this nich pratyay, and then we are applying these three properties, that this particular dhatu roop, this particular verb form is in third person, plural, because vyathayanti, so plural, and present tense, that is simple lat lakar. So with this entire meaning, we get this dhatu roop vyathayanti, simply meaning that they or these things, they torment, okay, they cause agitation, they cause troubles, they cause confusion in all those sense. And again, since it is being preceded by this na, so na vyathayanti, so the meaning is negated, that they or these things don't torment, simple as that. So we are starting with this na vyathayanti, but of course the question will be that ke, that they don't torment, what are they? And so we get the response ete na vyathayanti. And ete, this is a pronoun that simply means that these. This ete is of course coming from this pratipadika etat. And again, you can simply guess the form ete. And since this is the subject, the karta of this action, na vyathayanti. So we already know it is plural. And since it is a karta, so it is in first word case, prathama vibhakti. So ete na vyathayanti, these things don't torment. But what are these things? What it is talking about? So the answer we get is from the previous shloka. This is an implicit noun. This is an implied noun. Because in this particular shloka, we don't directly use it, matra sparshaha, as it is. Because we already spoke about this in the previous shloka. And since again, all these verses is like a continuation dialogue. So Krishna is just using the pronoun now. Instead of repeating its name again. That he could have said that matra sparshaha na vyathayanti. But instead of saying that, he is simply referring it with this pronoun that ete na vyathayanti. Okay, that is why I am putting this in bracket, because it is the implicit noun. I hope all of you have covered the previous shloka, otherwise you won't get this context. So if you have not, please go and complete the previous shloka. Then only you will understand the impact of this matra sparsha. But all of you who have completed it, so you will automatically connect it. That okay, he is still talking about that matra sparshaha, which means the contact between the sense and the objects. So the contact, the interaction of the sense with the sense objects of the outside world, and through these contacts, whatever impression or whatever sensation, whatever feelings, whatever emotions is invoked within us. So all these things, na vyathayanti, all these things, they don't torment. Okay, so this is what we are starting at. So I hope the use of this implicit noun, this is very clear. Okay, and now if we'll move on, so an obvious question will be that these things don't torment who? That is why I'm asking, kam na vyatyanti, that to whom they don't torment. And the response we get is, yam purusham ete matra sparshaha na vyatyanti. So see, purusham of course is coming from the pratipadika purusha, that means person. And this yam is coming from this pratipadika, this pronoun yad. And yad pronoun is used in the sense of one who. Okay, but yam, the form here is of course the second case, the dutiya vibhakti singular form. That is why yad changing into yam. And now the meaning becomes to one whom in that sense. So yam purusham, a person to whom ete matra sparshaha na vyatyanti, that a person to whom these contacts, they don't torment, they don't vex. Okay, and now Krishna is going to use some adjectives for this person. That is why I'm asking this question, Kidrisham. So Krishna is saying yam dhiram purusham. And dhiram, this we have already seen in the previous shlokas also. This is coming from the pratipadika dhira. So we have seen this pratipadika before also, dhira. Dhira simply means a firm-minded person. And who is a firm-minded person? So a person who has obviously controlled his senses, who has controlled his senses, because when a person controls his senses, then only he can control the fluctuations of his mind. And one who has controlled the fluctuations of his mind, then obviously the viveka, the intellect of that person is well established in the supreme truth. So basically a person who is a jnani purush. So a person who is well established in the truth, that is a dhira, that is a firm-minded person. Okay, so dhiram purusham, a firm-minded person, yam, to whom ete na vyatyanti, these things don't vex, these things don't torment. But there is another adjective, and this is this, sama dukkha sukham. That is a person who is equanimous in pleasure and pain. Equanimous, this simply means a person who treats both pleasure and pain alike. A person who treats the up and the down alike, the happiness and the sorrow alike. And you can already see this word. Dukkha is again all the pain, all the sorrow. Sukha is all the pleasure, all the happiness. And sama, so this is the keyword here. And this sama, this simply means equal. Okay, so a person who is equal, who is sama in both dukkha and sukha, that is a person who has equanimity of mind. And our shastras, our Sanatan Dharma have given us the best example of this equanimity of mind. And that example is none other than Prabhu Shri Rama. So if we can just go and read the Ayodhya Kanda of Valmiki Ramayana, the way Valmiki ji he has described the conversation between Dashratha and Ram. So Ayodhya Kand is where Dashratha he first tells Rama that you are going to get coronated as the next king. But the next day when Sri Rama arrives for that coronation ceremony, then he gets told by Kaikeyi what all has happened. Kaikeyi informs Rama about the two promises Dashratha has made to her, and due to honor that, Rama has to leave for 14 years of exile, and in place of him, Bharata, his son, Kaikeyi's son Bharata, he will be made the next king of Ayodhya. So all this has happened. So one day he gets this news that you are going to get coronated as the next king. The very next day, when it is his ceremony, the day of the ceremony, he is getting told that he not only gets not the kingdom, but he has to leave the kingdom and he has to live for 14 years as an ascetic in the jungles, in the vana. So to get such a news, but for Rama, nothing changes within. So of course his actions will change accordingly. So he has to plan and he has to plan his actions accordingly. But within him nothing changes. So if you just have to understand the best example of this samatva, this equanimity of mind, again Prabhu Shri Rama, not just in Ayodhya account, throughout Ramayana, that is what Shri Rama stands for, to uphold dharma. This equanimity is essential. But again, the classic example. So Purusham, a person, Dhiram Purusham, a firm-minded person, and then Samadukha Sukham, a firm-minded person who treats both the pleasure and the pain alike, who is equanimous in both pleasure and pain. Yam, to whom ete matra sparshaha, these contacts, these interactions of the sense with the sense objects, these things, na vyatyanti, they don't torment, they don't cause any agitation or confusion. So with this first statement, Krishna, he has described to Arjuna to what kind of person he is talking about. And then he will further continue and say that such a person, saha kalpate, that such a person, he is eligible. Kalpate means to be eligible, to be capable. So this dhatu roop kalpate, this is coming from krip, this dhatu. And this dhatu, this verb root means again to be eligible or to be capable for something or to be fit for something. So all these definitions mean one and the same thing. And now he's talking about that purusham, that person only, that saha kalpate. So third person singular and present tense, that is normal lat lakar in Sanskrit. So krip dhatu in these three properties changes into kalpate. So by the form you can already see this is an atmanepadi dhatu, right? Kalpate, kalpete, kalpante. So these forms goes. So an atmanepadi dhatu. So now the question will be that such a person is eligible or such a person is capable. Kasmai. Capable for what? Eligible for what? And so Krishna finishes the statement by saying Saha Amratatvaya kalpate. That he is eligible for Amratattva. And Amratattva simply means immortality. And please take a note that this immortality is not that fancy idea that a person just does not die. That he is immortal, he lives forever, he doesn't die. So we are not talking about that immortality here. But rather this immortality can be understood with this word, that is moksha, or the unison with the Supreme Self, the ultimate union of the Self with the Supreme Self. So that moksha, that mukti, that nirvana, that kaivalya, so that immortality we are talking about. Because in our Shastra, the immortality, this does not imply deathlessness. So it is not about deathlessness, rather it is the reverse. It is about birthlessness. Because we see this entire chain of living for the soul as samsara, the cycle of life and death. So it is not the end of death, it is just the end of a new birth. So the end of samsara, the birthlessness, that is immortality. So basically it means the moksha, that final, that ultimate union of the self with the Brahma, that immortality. So I hope this immortality, this amratattva, this is clear. But this word form, this shabd rupa, so the pratipadika here is amratattva. And you can already see that the main pratipadika would have been this amrata. Because this twa, we generally add this twa to denote this, that ness. Ness in the sense that greatness. So mahatva, or we can say shortness. So laghutva. So this twa essentially defines that something is of that nature. That is why that English ness adds greatness, shortness. In all those sense, amrita, this generally means immortal. And with this twa, this amritatva, this simply implies that of the nature of immortal. So basically immortality they're talking about. Okay, so amritatva, this is the pratipadika, that means this immortality. From this amritatva only, we are getting amritatvaya, because saha kalpate, he is eligible, he is capable for. So I want to say for amritatva. So of course I am using the fourth case, the chaturthi vibhakti and singular. So amritattva, this pratipadika in fourth case singular changes into amritatvaya. Okay, for immortality. Okay, for immortality basically again means that for the unison or for the attainment of union of the self with the Supreme Self, in that sense, for the attainment of moksha, in that sense. So I hope all the words are clear. Let us see the Anvay along with the translation now. Krishna is referring to Arjuna with this name here, Purusha Rishabha. And this name is also a samasa. It has these two words. Purusha, that means again a person, and Rishabha. So Rishabha, this means someone who is best, someone who is the most excellent. Okay, Rishabha, this also means bull. Okay, so when you have to signify the strength, the valor of someone, that the bull among men. So in that sense, very powerful in that sense, right? So we can take this meaning also. But Rishabha, this also means the best or the most excellent. So basically what Krishna is trying to say, that Purushanama Rishabha, that one who is the best among all men. So with this decorative title, he is referring to Arjuna. And again, when they combine, so there is a sandhi that happens. Okay, so that is just simply the gun sandhi, but the meaning is clear, I hope. Purusha Rishabha simply means, O best among men. And since here it is in the Sambodhana Vibhakti, as we have so often seen. With this, Krishna is calling out to Arjuna, and this he, this avyaya, this simply translates as because. And we have to understand this, that this again is a continuation dialogue, right? So Krishna, he spoke the previous dialogue and then he's just continuing with this statement, with that chain of thought, and saying that because, O best among men, Purusham, the person who is dhiram, who is firm-minded, and samadukha sukham, that who treats both the pleasure and the pain alike, who is equanimous in both happiness and sorrow. So the person who is firm-minded and treats pleasure and pain alike, yam, to whom Ete matra sparshaha na vyathayanti. To whom these contacts between the sense and their objects, these interactions and the impressions that come out of them, these things don't vex, these things don't torment. Okay, so basically he's describing a person who has equanimity of mind. Okay, and then he says, such a person, saha, he, kalpate, he is eligible. And eligible for what? So, amratatvaya kalpate, that he is eligible for immortality. And this immortality we know means being one with that eternal Brahma. Basically, that he is eligible for attaining moksha. He is eligible for ending this cycle of samsara. Okay, so that was the entire translation of the shloka. The main theme that I feel is touched upon in this particular verse is the equanimity of mind. That samatva. So that equanimity of mind is the single most beneficial and the most practically applicable quality that we can cultivate within us. Because what we see in Prabhu Sri Ram is basically the personification of this quality, equanimity of mind. And this is the same thing that Shri Krishna also tells us when he says karmanne vadikaraste ma phaleshu kadachana. So basically the nishkama karma, that concept. So he's basically hinting at that only, equanimity of mind. And see, we may give this argument that I am not a spiritual person. So this end goal of amritattva, of attaining immortality, union with Brahma, no, I don't even want to chase that. I just want to live in this practical world. Do good, live a good life. I just want that. So even for these people, even for all of us who pursue this life, so even for us, this equanimity of mind is a single most quality that we all need to cultivate within us. Because again, we don't know what the world is going to throw at us. And if we are able to handle both the success and failure, then whatever the world throws at us, we can handle it carefully and with grace, with acceptance, we can handle that. Because see, for a person who is famished, who is very hungry, so that hunger is going to torment him a lot, because then he is identifying himself with the body and his immediate physical need is that I want to get some food. So that hunger is going to torment him a lot. But suppose that same person has children, has little children, little kids with him, and they are also equally hungry. So the moment that person gets a chapati or two, so he will not hesitate to give all that chapatis, all that food to his kids. And then that hunger is not going to torment him that much, because the purpose of his action, the goal of his action is not his physical needs, but that is above it. That is the emotional need. He is identifying with his mental emotional needs. That is to feed his kids, to feed his children. So when the purpose of the action elevates, it becomes higher than our just this physical self. Then already the pain that those objects can cause us, that pain subdues a lot. And then we can take examples of our freedom fighters. So our freedom fighters, they fought to get back what was rightfully ours. First from this British colonizers, that before them those Islamic invaders, the fight kept on happening for quite a long time. But those freedom fighters, they not only suffered physical torture, but they also suffered mental harassment with not just the enemies, but with the own insider people. So that was mental torture, mental harassment. They suffered everything. Why? Because their goal was even higher than that emotional. Their purpose of life, their purpose of action was that intellectual goal where they have to get the freedom. So their intellectual goal, their purpose of life was higher than their own physical needs. It was higher than the emotional needs of his family, of their relatives, of everyone. Their purpose was even higher than that. So the more and more our purpose becomes bigger, the higher is our purpose in life, the higher is the purpose of our actions in life, the lesser these things, these sorrow, these grief, these objects of world, they torment us. And lastly, there is also a third argument that can be made, that a person who is equanimous, that he treats both success and failure, happiness and sorrow alike. So he is like an inert person, he doesn't do anything. And there, a very careful warning, Shri Chinmayananda ji, through his commentary on Bhagavad Gita, he gives us that this equanimity of mind, this samatva, should come not out of laziness or incompetence, but it should come out of knowledge and action. Because we cannot see a lazy person and say that, oh, he is so equanimous in mind. Because the lazy person, he is not reacting, whether you throw good thing or bad thing at him, he is not reacting. Why? Because he is lazy. He just don't want to do anything, or he is incompetent. But that is not equanimity of mind. The equanimity of mind should come out of a life that is active, a life that is dynamic, a life that is full of actions. That we ought to do whatever we can with our capacity, and we ought to do it good with all honesty. And while doing it, while living this active and dynamic life, we have to cultivate this equanimity. that whether we get failure, whether we get success, whether we get happiness, whether we get sorrow, we have to stay alike. We have to treat them alike. Because again, all these are transitory, all these are momentary, fleeting, anityaha, what we saw in the previous shloka. So anyways, this is the one of the main theme that was touched upon in this shloka, this equanimity of mind. And we as a culture, we are not very equipped with this thing that was so integral in our nature, in our ancient culture. It was so integral in our nature, but since in our school now no one talks about these things, and because some great minds in our history, they decided that a text like Bhagavad Gita, it is a religious text, so we cannot teach them in school, because otherwise it will be going against the secular spirit of Bharata. So some great minds, they decided that, and that is why we as a generation and the upcoming generation, all these generations, never in the school during our forming years of our life, we are exposed to these things, these tips, these hacks of life. Because if we can teach Bhagavad Gita to a teenager who is currently in a grade 10th or grade 11th or grade 12th, who is preparing for these competitive exams in this competitive world, that while they're still in class 10th or class 11th, they have this pressure to get into a good college. Why? So that they can get a good salary. Because if they do not start with the initial salary of 24 lakhs per annum, then they are total failure. So if we are living in this competitive world, and if we are not exposed to such truths, such practical life hacks, then it is very difficult. And that is the reason why so many of us are currently dealing with this mental problem, these mental health issues. Because again, all these mental health issues are bound to happen if we don't have such clarity. And the irony is that by the time we get this clarity, when we are in the job and by our own efforts, we find these texts like Bhagavad Gita, this Vedant philosophy. By the time we get exposed to this, by that time we are already in so much social, what you say, commitments, that we have a family of our own. So we have a home loan that is going on, we have a car EMI, we have all other EMIs, we have kids to whom we have to send them to school, we have to pay their fees. So we are already so much committed, so much held tight in this social structure, then it's not much we can do about this. So the best time is to teach all these things to the school kids, at least starting from class 9th onwards, when they are teenagers. So that is the best time to teach all these things. But unfortunately, it is not so. And a text like Bhagavad Gita, it is just a ornamental book that is available in every Hindu household, but rarely anyone opens it and understands it. But anyways, we are doing our part, you and me, we are doing our part. Hopefully things will reach to whoever deserves it. But anyways, that was I don't want to dwell in that zone. That was the entire thing of the shloka. I hope all the grammar and vocabulary thing, everything was clear. I hope you enjoyed it. Again, all these themes that I spoke about, again, I'm reiterating this thing that I read Chinmayananda's commentary. It is not that I am making this stuff up on my own. Maybe one of few things, it is my own opinion or suggestion, but the major understanding of it comes from the commentary on this Bhagavad Gita. And maybe you are reading some other commentary, maybe you are following some other commentary, they have some other approach towards it. If that be so, so it is just again a matter of different commentaries on it. But please do follow these shlokas with some or the other commentary. The spiritual, the philosophical implications of these shlokas is very important, apart from what Sanskrit learning we are doing with that. But having said that, I'll meet you in the next video with another shloka. Until then, stay awesome, stay happy. Vayam punah milamaha. Dhanyavad.